At some point the question becomes, what does the impact of 700 dead manatees mean on the ecosystem of the Indian River Lagoon? It's a multifaceted question. There's no easy answer. Everything you see, everything that encompasses the Indian River Lagoon area depends on each other.
Well, the initial situation in the Indian River Lagoon, which has now been labeled as an official unusual mortality event, started in July of 2012, so about a year ago. And the carcasses started coming in very spotty. So there's a state lab over in St. Petersburg that does all the necropsies, and they just started to see sort of an unusual number of quote-unquote natural deaths coming in, and all the manatees had full stomachs of gracilaria and other macroalgae. And of course, we'd all been following what's been happening in the lagoon, you know, the seagrass die-off that started in 2010, and so all of us were kind of just waiting with bated breath and our fingers crossed, wondering how the manatees were going to react. I think most people probably figured that the manatees would shift to different areas. I mean, yes, Brevard's a very central part of their habitat, but they do have some other options. So I think that was the hope, is that they would just move to other areas, especially if it was in the warmer months. Now, certainly if it's wintertime and they're, you know, kind of held hostage at the power plants to stay warm, you know, going up to Volusia, down to Indian River to try to find food is not really an option. And of course, there aren't seagrass beds really north of Brevard. This is about it. But again, I think, you know at least I was hopeful that they would find other sources of food. And they did find other sources of food. Unfortunately, it seems to be something that's making them sick. But still, for all the research that's gone on, nobody knows. You know, the macroalgae seems to be a common thread, but as far as what the mechanism for toxicity is, there's still no idea. Nothing's turning up positive so far. The other interesting thing is that it's not affecting all manatees. So, you know, in the spring and the winter, you had far more manatees traversing through this county and, you know, taking up residence here than were turning up dead. So why it was affecting some and not others is another question to be answered. There's a group working out of the University of Florida on a proteomics project to try to look at samples coming from this area to try to answer some of the questions, and we've contributed a chunk of funding to that, again, just trying to get at some answers. There were also some manatees that were tagged as part of a research project in Brevard, and they were scheduled to come offline. It's very expensive to keep a manatee tagged, and we provided funding this spring to just keep them online for a number of extra weeks while they were here in Brevard, so that they could be tracked, their movements could be known, we could see where they were hanging out, if they were with other animals, their behavior, what they were eating, just to try to get some sort of insight. Because, you know, when you have an unusual mortality event that happens, what you want is to try to find animals that are affected but still alive. Because if an animal's still alive, you can draw blood, you can do other diagnostics to try to understand what's actually happening physiologically with the animal. And unfortunately, in Brevard County, since this event started a year ago, there's not been one manatee found alive suffering from whatever this is. All the mortalities seem to be incredibly acute, which means that they're happening very fast. So, I mean, the manatees are dying with full stomachs and with food in their mouth sometimes. So, you know, no one's had the opportunity to rescue a live manatee and try to do any of the diagnostics that you would need to again try to get to the root cause of this. So it's been very frustrating and very scary. You know, when you don't know what you're dealing with, you don't know how to fix it.
It would be impossible for one person or even one organization to tackle the entirety of the problem. The reality is there's several groups, Sierra Club, Save the Manatees, the Indian River Keeper. You know, these organizations, these people come together for the same cause, though. They're trying to save the environment of the IRL and the manatees that live in it.